Hello, Michael Talbot-Kelly here, talking to you about trust. Difficult thing. I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to wade into the difference between testing love and trusting love. Half and half make one relationships versus 1 + 1 = 2. This is part of our relationship theme. And so you all know that, or maybe you don't, that I, of course, was married once, and I was in a half + half = 1 relationship. We did our best. I'm really proud of what we were able to do, but at a certain point we ran into a lot of our own unhealthy halfness, and that all got spilt over onto the other person. And then it was all about testing and expecting and supposed doing, and you're my partner, so that's the way it is, and you're in charge of the, bringing me my slippers and and hat and a glass of whiskey at the end of the. That's not what I did, but like that, I expected on the outside for the love to come, as opposed to understanding that the 1 + 1 = 3 relationship is really, I fill up with love. I'm in charge of bringing the one wholeness that is already dripping with love and trust, and really allowing that to be fully expressed in the relationship, and I would bring that to the relationship. And I learned that by getting across this bridge, and I want to share with you 3 things that I think might be useful that I did in order to understand the breadth and depth of what the real effects of living this is really like. So I ended up doing a whole bunch of inner work. I ended up realizing that I got really tired of, even after the marriage, going out with other people who were, put that over there, that going out with other people who were also reflecting my halfness, and the negative halfness, my fears, my anxieties, my depressions, my lack of trust. And I had my trust broken when I was quite young. Some of you know that story. I had a lot of trust broken through rejection and betrayal and trauma. And so I put that all over. I expected that my wife was going to, or my partners after that, was going to somehow be able to stitch that together for me. But way too much pressure and way too much neediness in that kind of relationship. So I managed to get across the bridge by first developing a much better relationship with myself. I had to learn to show up with myself. I learned that, my trust was broken, my barriers and my boundaries was broken down, and it was me that was wounded, and it was just going to be reflected on the outside. Let me explain. So I learned to meditate. I learned to meditate, but I took it way more serious. I turned pro in terms of my meditation. I did a lot more. It raised my awareness about life, about nature, that I could trust and be reminded that the sun was going to come up during the day, that the tulips would come up in the springtime, that I would be able to get up in the morning and I would have a good day if I ate well and I slept well. I got to get really simple again, and I got to really do a lot of self-inquiry about life, and I started to, I timed myself out from any lover-friend relationship. I just took 9 months out to really go in and do this work. I needed to. Trust me, I was a bit of a mess. And so I took meditation, and meditation taught me a whole lot about, and a lot of confidence in that I could trust life itself. I didn't expect life to be, I wasn't testing life to, it was just allowing my own nature and nature on the outside to get syncopated. And I could, as I did that, I was less controlling, less about power and control, less about expectations, less about everything had to be my way or the highway. I can still be like that because of my background, but I'm so much better as a result of those 9 months. And so as my awareness increased, I also started to see my own, I could come back into that, being stitched up within myself first, that I could trust that, and I could show up for that. And I knew that if I was confused on the outside, I would come back and get the clarity, and then I'd be able to go back out and bring it into relationship. So that was my way of doing it. I went out into nature, I went into my meditation, my own self-inquiry to access my own inner nature. I started reading a lot of books about that, first stitching myself up and then going to stitch myself together with somebody else. So the second part is I started to study this principle and really focus on the fact that Tatvamasi is Sanskrit for everything is a mirror, right? And the ancients believed this, and you'll get this all around the world, that everything is but a mirror, both the positive and the negative. So if I saw joy, or saw the awe of a sunrise, or I saw the incredible warmth in a mom to her child, I realized that that was me. And my teachers would walk around and they would say, "Wow, that's me. Wow, look at me being reflected." Not me as a narcissistic, but just saying, yes, that's part of life. But they also, when they saw negativity and shootings, and they saw, things that really pushed their buttons in their relationships, they took that very seriously, and they made trust and distrust their teacher. And they honed in and they worked at that for days if necessary. They went to therapy, they did their own self-inquiry around that, they started to look at all the various ideas and feelings and trauma that came up with that, and then they would go to bat to unhook it within themselves and then walk back into that same scenario. And if their buttons were still being pushed, they went back into the... So I was doing this rigorously. I made trust and distrust my teacher. So that's the third thing. The first thing was meditation. I started to see the mirror. I started to trust. If you don't have trust, how is it that you can live fully? You'll be walking around testing, expecting, with neediness, as opposed to really relaxing into it. This is the currency of trust that's in here. And then I can, yes, trust in life, and I'm going to lock my car up, or as the Sufis say, trust in Allah and tie your camel up, right? Trust in the universe and do your part, do your 50% part, right? So it's not about naivete. It's about the innocence of, yes, look at life unfolding. This is gorgeous. And look at you, because here's I am unfolding, and here's me in my relationship. Now, there I also am noticing how beautiful you are and how accepting I am of you, because I'm starting to accept of my own challenges and my own beauty and my own joy and warmth and gifts and talents and yeah, crazy, wild weirdness as well, right? I can then appreciate that in the other person. Now I'm making that sound like that's all just a piece of cake, and as soon as you do your 9 months that everything's... No, you're going to be challenged once you've learned this, when you go out there, especially if you have a few years in an old marriage, in an old way of doing things. But this is the basic formula. You do your work, you step into... I'm now in my second marriage. I'm in 20 years. We've gone through a lot of challenges, but I keep these same principles, just allow me to come back to what is true. And my showing upness for myself is also is mirrored in my showing up for Kaylee and my kids and my clients and all the rest of it. And people say to me, how did you build that warmth and that trust and that allowing of life to just be as it is? Well, a little bit like this. I learned that consistency is a sign of sincerity. This is the final thing I want you to walk away with. Consistency is a sign of sincerity. If you're sincere about learning trust and you really do your work in a good way and you really show up for that, you will, in a consistent way, a disciplined way, that sincerity spills out into your relationships. And it's that sincerity that you can start to trust, right? If you're on a spiritual path or in a deep relationship, you need trust. You need to build trustworthiness. Start here. I hope that's helpful. Thanks very much for joining me. Bye for now.